have with us Cadet Major Nicole Guerrier from Mount Zion High School's Junior Air Force Junior ROTC to assist us with our Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Thank you so much. Board members, in accordance with Board Policy BH, it is the duty of every board member to avoid both conflicts of interest and appearance of such conflicts. Does any board member have any known conflict of interest or appearance of such conflict with respect to any matter scheduled to come before the board at this meeting or appearing on our proposed agenda? If so, please identify the conflict or appearance of conflict and refrain from participation in the matter involved. We have some excellent young people out there in the foyer waiting to be recognized. So
Madam
board members,
Chair,
I think.
Before you do that, I have a question in regards to recognitions.
Ms. Corey, we're going to recognize these young people, and if you have a question, we can do it later, okay? Because they're out there waiting and they're anxious.
Well, actually a point of information then from the legal counsel in regards to that.
Okay, let's be quick.
Am
Mr.
I
Doyle?
entitled to that?
Quickly, yes, ma'am.
Okay, I sent an email to you, to the board chair, to Mr. Doyle, and to the superintendent in regard to making a presentation to the board. Now, I'm looking at our website, and it says that you welcome this, and this has been on here for more than a year. It's under review, and you need to bring it up to date, and a revised set of procedures will be posted. I need to know from legal counsel why it is that 2 years ago, Representative Sandra Scott was allowed to come and do presentations during recognition. What Ms. Chairman Adamson claims that she conferred with you. I'd like to know what policy has changed in 2 years that you would not allow a state representative to come and make a presentation. I appreciate her doing this for me. There were 2 employees that she wanted to recognize, had a proclamation from the governor. We have allowed it before. We're doing recognitions today. I need an explanation from the superintendent, the board chair, and you as to why that could not have occurred today, and where it is in policy that we do not do it. Now, I asked you, you say don't have surprises. Let's work together harmoniously. You know, send your stuff to somebody, and I guess apparently I'm not important enough to be dignified with a response from you all. And I do not appreciate it because we had 2 employees that could have stood up here right with these children and been recognized, but you all decided that you weren't going to do it. And I see that to be discriminatory.
Mr. Doyle, I did it. I called you Mr. Brock. I'm sorry, Mr. Doyle. I'm going to let you answer that, but I want it answered quickly, and we're going to move on because those kids are waiting to be recognized, and that's what we're here for this evening.
Following up on Ms. Gorey's point of order, I believe the board chair made a ruling on the request in terms of the flow of the board meeting, and that decision stands unless the board chooses to overturn it. So you would be free at the appropriate time to make a motion on that subject. I think it'd be appropriate to put that on an agenda, but that decision was made, and it's up to the board to overturn.
Okay, well, if it's up to the board, then it should have been sent to the board, and the board could have sat here and publicly voted and said, we're not going to allow our state representative to do this. But
Ms. Corey, we're not going to have this conversation.
If that was the case, then you should have
Ms. Corey,
answered
we
me
are
with
not
an email
going
and
to have
told
this
me that that's
conversation.
what it was. I am embarrassed
Ms. Corey,
by our board.
Ms. Corey, you're
chair
out of order.
taking that
Ms. Corey, you're
position.
finished for tonight now if you don't be quiet.
You're not going to do anything.
Yes, ma'am, I will. Okay, we're going to recognize these young people and respect their parents that are here to see them get the recognition. Board members, if you would join me down front, we're recognizing at least 1 athletic team, maybe 2, and we're recognizing our star students from each high school. So if you would join down, the superintendent down front.
Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Jackson, ladies and gentlemen. Each year, a group of Clayton County Public School students and teachers receive a special recognition through the Professional Association of Georgia Educators, the STAR Awards. Also known as the Student Teacher Achievement Recognition, the STAR Awards recognize seniors that have the highest score on one test date on the three-part SAT taken during the November test date of their senior year and be in the top 10% or top 10 students of their class based on grade point average. Each senior is then given the opportunity to recognize a teacher that has had a major impact on their academic success. Usually, our students and teachers are recognized at a luncheon sponsored by the Clayton County Chamber of Commerce, the Rotary Club of Clayton County, and supported by Clayton County Public Schools. The weather had different ideas this year, and the event was canceled. So tonight, we honor these outstanding students and teachers. As your name is called, please come forward and remain up front until all names are called. Joining us in making these presentations is Yolanda Buford, the President of the Clayton County Chamber of Commerce.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity. The Clayton County Chamber of Commerce has recognized our STAR students and teachers for the past 57 years. That is the entirety of the STAR student program. We understand the significance of student achievement as well as our educators who help them to get to where they are. And that is what we're here to recognize this evening. So as I call your names, we'll be calling the STAR students and teachers that are present with us this evening, but equally we will be calling up their counselors as well as their principals because we know it takes a village to raise our students and we want to recognize them all. So our first school is Charles Drew High School. Our STAR student, Bria Bishop. Our STAR teacher, Miss Inez Humphrey. Our principal, Mr. Gary Townsend, and our STAR counselor, Ms. Sharon Muhammad. Our next school, Elite Scholars Academy. Our STAR student, Charisma Uswagwi. Our STAR teacher, Mrs. Rashonda Hutchins-Trapp. Our principal, Dr. Shonda Shaw, and our counselor, Ms. Stephanie Brown. And I'd be remiss if I didn't share with you what subjects the teachers taught their STAR students. For our first student, Bria Bishop, Ms. Humphrey taught her English 11th grade, and for Charisma, Ms. Hutchins-Trapp taught her gifted science in the 7th grade. Our next school, Forest Park High School. Our STAR student, Bria Matthews. Our STAR teacher, Mr. Arthur Williams. Our principal, Derek Manning. And our counselor, Ms. Teresa Lewis. And Mr. Williams taught Bria Math 2 gifted in her 10th grade class. Our next school, Jonesboro High School. Our STAR student, Mackenzie Tolbert. Our STAR teacher, a 4-year STAR teacher, Mr. Jeff Cox. Jeff taught her language arts 11th grade. Our principal, Ms. Felicia Brown, also joining us as our assistant principal, Dr. Karen Turner, and Dr. Shanelius Colbert is our counselor. Our next school, Lovejoy High School. Our STAR student, Abdul Brima. Our STAR teacher, Ms. Jossie Matthews. Ms. Matthews taught Abdul 9th grade math. Our principal, Dr. Keith Colbert, and our STAR counselor, Ms. Donna Baines. Our next school, Martha Ellen Stillwell School of the Arts, and it's our first year of our School of the Arts in the program. Our STAR student, Kai Tran. Our STAR teacher, Dr. Kay Pace. The subject taught was Mixed Chorus 4B in 12th grade. Our star principal, Dr. Michael Robinson, and our star counselor, Ms. Barbara Stanfield. Our next school, Morrow High School. Our star student, Kenny Pham. Our star teacher, Dr. Carla Eccles. Dr. Eccles taught Kenny American Literature, 11th grade. Our star principal, Dr. Pamela Pitts, and our counselor, Dr. Loretta Jameson. Our next school, Mount Zion High School. Our star student, Robert Blanchard. Our star teacher, Mr. Terrence Timms. Mr. Timms taught Robert Economics 12th grade. Our principal, Mr. Melvin Blocker, and our star counselor, Dr. Bernadette Dare. Our next school, Mundy's Mill High School. Our star student, Tran Nguyen. Our star teacher, Mrs. Melissa Niedermeyer. Mrs. Niedermeyer taught Tran AP Language 11th grade. Our principal, Mr. William Green, and our star counselor, Dr. Victoria Martin. Our next school, North Clayton High School. Our star student, Jessica Chatham. Our star teacher, Mrs. Tony Tubman Legary. Ms. Legary taught Jessica English 11th grade. Our principal, Mr. Lonnie Farmer, and our star counselor, Ms. Perla Wright. Last but certainly not least, our high school, Riverdale High School. Our star student, Sean Obie. Our star teacher with her daughter, Miss Gina Young Kelly. Miss Kelly taught Sean AP Calculus 12th grade. Our principal, Miss Jamil Miller Brown, and our star counselor, LaShawna Thomas. And if we can give one final round of applause to all of our star student and teachers. Before they leave, we have one more recognition. We love all of our schools, but there's always one winner from the district. And tonight, I'd like to announce that winner because they don't know who that is. And so, our winner, and it is not Dr. Pitts. I've got to give her a joke because she has been our winner for many years, but she is relinquishing that title this year. And I have a plaque for our star student and teacher and a gift bag that we'll make sure that you get in the middle up front. Our winning star student with the highest SAT score in our Clayton County schools during the testing period is Forest Park High School. Bria Matthews and Mr. Arthur Williams. If Bria Matthews and Arthur Williams can come up, Dr. Manning, if you can come up, and Ms. Teresa Lewis, if you're still here, if you all can come up to the front.
Yeah, if you, yeah. And we ask the STAR students and STAR teachers and staff members if they would, as soon as the presentations are made to the STAR student and the STAR teacher of the year, if you would come back to the front for a big group picture, we would greatly appreciate that. So everyone can get their photographs. If y'all could come back. Just gather in the well area. If you're standing on that, kind of move down to allow everybody to come through. That would be great. Thank you. The picture is going to be taken from the balcony, so we're going to try to get, hopefully we're going to get everybody's bright and shining face, and we want that. Can you move in? Hey, that's great. Okay. Whoa, wait a minute. Are you guys? We ask our STAR students and teachers if they could find a seat in the audience if they would like to help us celebrate our next group. Oh, okay. I think it worked out well.
We did also.
I'm going to ask. Okay. Okay. I'd like to ask Felicia Brown, the principal at Jonesboro High School, if she would join us up front. Okay. Okay. All right. Over there. Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, board members, tonight it is our distinct pleasure and honor to recognize the boys basketball team from Jonesboro High School. Earlier this year, the Jonesboro boys basketball team continued their dominance in their classification, winning 30-plus games during the regular season and going on that wonderful winning streak and claiming their second consecutive Georgia High School Association 4A Boys State Basketball Championship. I just want to pass on to the team members as your name is called, and also the others that we're honoring tonight. Please come forward and remain up front until all names are called. I ask Cardinals head coach Dan Mailman if he would come to the microphone and introduce our honorees for this evening.
Thank you, Charles. We'll start with Jair Mincy. Eric Lovett. DeAndre Mack. Austin Donaldson. Philip Judson. Tariq Jenkins. Calder Mariah. Miles Black. Latavius Jenkins. Jamari Smith. MJ Walker. Jamari Mosley. We have assistant coaches John Bishop. Assistant coach Tyrone Horton. And our managers Suhaila Wright and Janice Richardson.
And we also have a certificate for the coach of the Jonesboro High School Cardinals, Dan Mailman. We're going to set up for a photograph in just a moment, but I would like to ask all of you who are here in support of these outstanding student athletes and this wonderful school to please stand and offer your congratulations. Well, if we can get everybody toward the center of the area in front of the board table, and we'll set up for some photographs, and then you guys can go. All right, before you guys move, what we'd like to do is we would like to invite the parents of the players to come up and join their family, join their players, their sons, so we can get a picture of the families with their students as well. Okay? Thank you. Madam Chair, I'd like to express my appreciation to Ebony Chillis, the coordinator of CTAE, Audrey Hamilton, the Director of Nutritional Services for the county, and Dr. Katrina King, Director of the Department of Exceptional Students, for assisting us with our presentations this evening. And that concludes our recognitions for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. White. Mary, do we have any other public officials? We don't think we have any more public officials, so we're going to go into executive session before too very long. We do have need of executive session, board members. We need to discuss personnel issues, so I need a motion to go into executive session. Dr. Anderson?
Madam Chair, I make the motion that we go into executive session to discuss personnel issues.
And Ms. Burrows?
I second the motion.
And board members, if you would vote your pleasure. And it is unanimous. We're going into executive session to discuss personnel issues. The board is back from executive session where we discuss personnel issues. And we will now go to our announcements with our Vice Chair, Dr. Anderson.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, district administrators, and citizens of Clayton County. Here are the announcements for the month of April. The fourth month of the calendar year serves as School Library Media Month, National Child Abuse Prevention Month, National Physical Wellness Month, National Poverty Month, and National Month of Young Child. The 2015 Clayton State University Robotics Bowl will be held on Friday, April 17th at the Chick-fil-A Forest Park Dwarf House restaurant. The event will feature students from 6 middle schools competing to capture the flag against college-level students and staff. The Robotics Bowl will begin at 6 p.m. The district's Title I Parent Academy program will host a celebration at the Performing Arts Center on Saturday, April 25th, beginning at 10 o'clock a.m. The celebration will honor more than 500 parents who successfully completed 6 out of 8 workshops. Also, on Saturday, April 25th, the district will sponsor a pre-kindergarten and kindergarten transition fair. The event will be held at the Perry Center for Learning in Jonesboro and will begin at 11 o'clock a.m. In addition, eligible children can be registered to attend the district's kindergarten program for the 2015-2016 school year. Kindergarten registration will begin at 9 o'clock a.m. The April board work session is scheduled for Monday, April 27th at 6 o'clock p.m. The meeting will be held here in the boardroom. On Tuesday, April 28th, students enrolled in law and justice programs from 5 district high schools will participate the second Shining Light Neighborhood Walk-In, the Normandy subdivision of College Park. Again, students enrolled in law and justice programs from the 5 district high schools will participate in the second Shining Light Neighborhood Walk in the Normandy subdivision of College Park. The walk will organize at 5 o'clock p.m. For the past 5 years, Clayton County has hosted the Georgia Student Media Festival. The state festival for judging purposes only will be held at the Cathy Professional Learning Center on Friday, May 1st, beginning at 9 o'clock a.m. 2 entries from the Clayton County Public Schools will be among the entries judged. The 3rd Clayton County Public Schools Science Olympiad will be held Saturday, May 2nd at Eddie White Academy. Students from 11 elementary schools and 10 middle schools will compete in 10 science-related events. The Olympiad will begin at 8 o'clock a.m. And finally, the May board meeting will be here in the boardroom on Monday, May 4th at 6 o'clock p.m. Madam Chair, that concludes tonight's announcements.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Board members, we'll now look at approval of our minutes. You have before you the minutes for the board work session on February the 23rd, the board meeting on March the 2nd, and the board and superintendent retreat on March the 14th. I did call Ms. Smith today with just a typo kind of an error, so there's a little tiny change in it, but the correct one is posted. Are there any other changes, additions, deletions from the minutes that you noticed as you reviewed them? Seeing none, then the minutes will be approved as they have been written and submitted to us. It's time for our superintendent's report. I think you're in for a treat this evening.
Good evening. We'd like to begin the superintendent's report with our district accomplishments. And as you see on this slide, there is the notation from the DA. It is a national magazine publication for education. And on this particular issue, it has working with the board. We're handing out that information to the board. This is a copy, and we made copies. But this particular copy features different superintendents, and I was one of those superintendents, and I was called by this magazine to talk about working with the board, strategies for stronger relationships. And I just highlighted that particular piece because my point here is I learned that no matter what your process might be, you take it to the board first, no matter what it might be. And so given that I have learned, and they published it along with some another Georgia superintendent, I think lets us be nationally highlighted for our improved relationships. And to get us out there on a national forum to state that we are improving and we are working together, not always agreeing, but we are working together. So that is to be, I think, commendable for the board and our employees as well. And so we will begin this evening with updates around our strategic goals. Goal 1, to increase academic achievement for all students in Clayton County Public Schools, as evidenced by state, national, and international assessment results. And so what we're talking about here, as you will look at this, is beginning with building capacity for staff. So we talk about our professional development courses and how they were designed this year specifically with the needs of K-2 teachers, and that was something new that we had for this year as well. 5 components of reading that we've talked about, and they're highlighted there. We developed that for each grade level in an effort to increase the teacher's ability as well and capacity. And so that was one of our accomplishments that we began. And this is just for 14-15. Ongoing professional training with our instructional site facilitators. We have one at every school. It used to be what we call coaches, but now we call them instructional site facilitators. And EIP lead teachers was implemented to review the data and going over data, and that is just so critical for everything we're doing. We're doing it in a different manner so that we are experiencing what it really feels like to look at the rigor and comparison. Gifted resource curriculum development, when we looked at the data for our gifted population, we noted that we needed to have a more rigorous curriculum for our gifted teachers as well. And so that's what we did, and we started back some time ago when we, the board, voted to have a coordinator for the gifted. And so we have looked at that and implemented learning target, scope, and sequence, reviewed what we were doing and how can we highlight the needs of that particular population. Governor Honors Program, and this year the number of state finalists increased from 5 to 11. Now that's more than doubled what we've been doing. And so we are pleased with our performance there. And looking at what we're doing and targeting what we're doing, we're seeing the results of it. And CTAE partnered with Clayton State to host the Work-Based Learning Success Seminar for more than 200 students in 9 business industry. So we are growing there. And you know, the board, when it first came, talked about realigning what we were doing with CTAE, and we did that. We restructured. And these are the results that we're getting. So we are very proud of some of the things that we're doing with CTAE. We are serving on Governor Deal's advisory board, and it's a founding member and instrumental in the Clayton Neighborhood Revitalization Coalition. So, excuse me, we are very much in the community with our CTAE program. Students in the law enforcement, this is another part of it, pathway at Drew, and these are several of our high schools, Morrow and Forest Park, and the Clayton County Police Department participated in the first Shining Light in our community. And you also have the picture of that, but making sure we're involved in our community as well. We had over 100 students in the information technology pathway attain the IRC certification. And that's great when we're talking about getting our kids out into the workforce. From Morrow and Riverdale Middle, selected to participate in the Ron Clark Power Ed training sponsored by Georgia Power. And we had not done that before. We had not participated in this kind of training. And so therefore, we were very pleased to have Georgia Power as our partner to make sure we could do this and see what our capacity building strategies could advance. The STEM program, and a lot of people talk about STEM, and everybody is saying, well, I'm STEM, but STEM comes from the State Department. And so we are very pleased and honored that the first school in Clayton County and the second middle school in the state of Georgia received the STEM certification. That's Rex Mill. And so I think they should be applauded. That's the video. Can we play that, Charles? We don't have sound? Okay, well, we'll continue. We can, but that was a celebration for that. And I was there to help with the STEM program from the state when they awarded us that certification. We have 152 high school English learners to attend a college tour and orientation at Clayton State. This was the first time, especially for our English learners, and making sure that they understand and know the opportunities. So we were very pleased, and that happened in March. We have to go to provide and maintain a safe and orderly and secure learning environment. We have team court over at Mara High School, first time for Mara High School, and that's the children that are involved in that. So we're looking at how we have discipline and how we might want to award consequences. We have also created this year a program for our students who might be involved with the court. And we have far more than we want, but we still have to partner with the juvenile court. And we have come up with a program, Bridge to Success, so that our students can still receive the education that they deserve. Clayton County Schools, Public Schools, has implemented PBIS. And I think many of you have heard about PBIS, Positive Behavior Interventions and Support, and a framework for 8 of our schools through the state that we are doing as designed by the state. But we expanded that in that we have developed a multi-tiered system of supports that is patterned after PBIS, and that's in all of our schools. And so that's the first time we've done that and developed a process to ensure that we collect the data surrounding that information so we can improve on that as well. Police officers all are trained, as you know, and now they are also trained by the Red Cross. And so when we have emergencies and we need our AEDs, then our SROs and other police officers can do that. We also have, for the first time, the latest suggested best practice for an active shooter. And I think you see some pictures highlighting that. Now, these are not all of the things that we've done, but we're going to have a brochure that you can get this evening that will give you more details, but I'm highlighting some of what we have. So strategic goal 3, to create an environment that promotes active engagement, accountability, and collaboration of all stakeholders to maximize student achievement. So we've conducted leadership training, and at the High Museum for the first time this year is a partner with Clayton County Public Schools, and we had a leadership development process there at the High. They were so generous in letting us come there and kick off our Stronger Leadership Symposium. We have parent conferences, and with Title I, this is new, with 250, 300 parents attending. We had Science and Social Studies for our parents. We had Literacy and Numeracy District parent conferences as well this year. And those are some pictures that highlight that particular event. And then, with the next slide, one of 100 superintendents to participate in the Future Ready conference that was held at the White House and supported by the United States Department of Education. And so Clayton County Public Schools was chosen, and I, as the representative for Clayton County Public Schools, had that opportunity to talk about our technology and what we're doing and instruction, not just the hardware, but they saw us as being innovative and ready for the future. And then we hosted the regional conference here just a couple of weeks ago now, where we talked about the future ready, and from all over the Southeast, we hosted that summit. We are on Strategic 4, Goal 4, to effectively communicate the system's vision and purpose and allow stakeholder involvement in an effort to build understanding and support. So opened its first school-based health center at North Clayton High School, and with services beginning on January 13th of this year. And so we partner with the Family Health Centers of Georgia, and we had worked on this, but it did not come to fruition until this year. So we worked on it about a year or so ago, but not until this year could we make it happen. So we are so very proud of working with them and Kaiser and all of the other partners at North Clayton High School. And this is the first high school. That's what makes it so, so important for Clayton County Public Schools, because this is the first high school health-based center in the state for Georgia. High school, and the 7th in school-based in the state of Georgia. This is the first high school school-based health center in the state of Georgia, and that's I think, you know, we are to be commended for that, because usually they're at the elementary level, but not at high schools. And our students over at North Clayton welcome that center and are using it, as well as the parents. And there you see the picture that goes with how proud we are that we have had that accomplishment. Communications department continued to improve relations with the media outlets, and I think you have noted that we have improved our relationships with the different media outlets. A collateral benefit has been the improved two-way communication and dialogue, and so we will continue that. It started with Clayton Proud, I think many of you remember that, and that has continued, and I think we hear that throughout the county. Collaborated with Safe America and Allstate WSB-TV for our first annual Southside Brain Camp. Now, you might have seen it at the North Side quite a bit, but nothing had come to the South Side before. And so we thought, well, we deserve that as well. And so we worked hard in CTAE and all of our district employees. We had over 1,000 students and parents with Safe America. Had not happened before, and they were so pleased. We have that video. This is from that conference that we held, and it was held at Delta, and on a Saturday, and parents came, particularly middle school and high school. So we don't have to go through the whole piece, but I think you get the feel for what we are talking about, how we are highlighting our district and making things happen here. Great things are happening in Clayton County Public Schools. Then we had the Stillwell School of the Arts to organize and manage a successful ribbon cutting, and many of our board members were there, to have a state-of-the-art school, to have that magnet program that we are so proud of. Our new automation scheduling system with stores and plays CCPS, and this is from our communication department, and that was one of the challenges that we had. And so now we have this, and we have worked on it to make sure that we can broadcast 24/7 and have original programming available. We're reworking our district website, and then we're going to have real-time access for emergencies and bulletins. Goal 5, to provide high-quality support services delivered on time and within budget to promote student academic success in our schools. And in an effort to serve more children during the summer months, when school is out, the nutrition department expanded its summer meal service program to local parks, recreation sites, churches, daycares, and summer camps. So at the conclusion of July, there were a total of 26,000 breakfasts, 54,000 lunches served to children in our community. We have Gizmo, a web-based math and science simulation, flipped classroom models. These are from Goal 5 continued, as well as through our technology department that we're working on, that we've just recently gotten to talk about our instructional side of technology and the training that goes with all of that. So we have smart tables. That's a collaborative learning center, which is new, and the training that goes with that. We have our video conferencing. While we've had the product for a while, we've not had a plan or been able to make sure that it was working in our schools. This now shows you we are making it work in our schools, and children are using it on a daily basis. To recruit, and this is Goal 6, to recruit and retain highly qualified and effective staff, we have 30 memorandums of understanding with our colleges and universities. We have leadership agreements with 7 colleges and universities. We've provided training for our future principals in getting LEAP started in a way that we had not done before. This is the first year for that. And we now have weekly mandatory employee orientations this year in assisting our employees. These are just some snapshots of our workings in working together, making sure that we are in collaboration with employees, parents, community partners as well. And now we'll talk about our next steps. So we've done a lot this year, and the year's not over. We still have some work to do. And we're beginning to look at our next steps that will support more of what you have just seen. We began with a proposed budget. And this budget will continue to address student academic needs through increased interventions in math. We talk about our math needs and equipping teachers with enhanced skills in reading instruction. Everything begins with how well we can read as we begin to prepare for implementation of our selected flexibility model. It also increases the number of teachers working with students in the areas of math and literacy. If we want to increase what our students are doing, we also have to increase what our teachers will be doing, as well as the numbers that we have of selective flexibility model, as well as increasing flexibility at the elementary level. We want to continue to address our needs as early as possible. Provide a one-time, again, and when we're talking about recruiting and making sure our staff will remain stable, we again want to talk about a 1% bonus to all personnel in full-time positions who are employed as of July 1, 2015. This will also accommodate mandatory increases in contributions by the district to the teacher retirement system and payments to the state health benefit plan for classified employees. I had mentioned to the board or talked to the board that when we had a lot of concern from employees and board members about our compensation packages to our teachers and to our employees, and not just teachers, but all employees, classified, certified employees. So make this, what we're proposing for this budget, to make adjustments to the district's teacher salary scale to repair several years of reduction in the local supplement, and that's been brought about all of the things that have come through the years with our budget reductions. teachers after the third year of teaching, and we did look at this through that task force as well. And that task force did not make recommendations. It just went about throughout the district looking at what the findings were, talking to different ones and gathering data. And so what we found was that after the third year of teaching, and teachers would remain at the same salary as a first year or a beginning teacher for a number of years. And all teachers would be advanced on this proposal to the appropriate next step on the salary scale. For our largest group of teachers, this would translate to an average salary increase next year of between 2.5 to 6% as a result of the adjusted scale. I think I said that correctly. Did you all, board members? We'll go there. And we also, this affords a one-step increase to all employees not paid on the teacher's salary scale who have fewer than 6 years of experience in the district. All employees not paid on the teacher's salary scale who have 6 years or more of experience would receive a two-step increase. So we are affecting all of our employees. And this, we are looking at our goal number 6 about recruiting staff, promoting staff, making sure we address employee needs. And this is one way to do that, as well as look at improving our academics. I want to again highlight that these are some accomplishments, and as you can see, I did not go through half of what's on these pages here. And again, these are not all for this year currently. So we had these outside for you to pick up. This is getting our story out as well. When we talk about, we need to, yes ma'am, when we talk about how did we get our story out, and Sachs mentioned that some time ago, and we're still in the stages of writing that progress report for Sachs, we're getting our story out and making sure that we know what it is we need to say. So in your community, at your churches, at any club, I'm talking about Rotary or something like that, when we're at those meetings, give them this. You can give them this. And this will tell our story better than we could just standing up. So we have these for distribution also on our website. But again, going back to that first slide where I want to make sure that the board members have it first when we're talking about this district. And I respect them as such, and I want to make sure that we all do. And that's how we get our story out as well. Making sure that everybody knows that Clayton County Public School is schools. It's on the same page. The leadership, the board members, the staff, departments, and this is one way to get it done. So I want to thank you for that opportunity. And with that, I will also hand out, just for board members this evening, just a brief synopsis, and we'll get more information to you about the budget.
So board members, at our meeting at the end of the month, our work session, we will have an intensive work session on budget. I believe Madam Superintendent is passing out a draft right now for us to consider between now and then, so we'll have a couple of weeks to look at it.
But we'll get more information.
Yeah.
This is just to highlight
Okay.
some of the things I've talked about this evening.
And I think everyone would like to have a copy of your PowerPoint, Madam Superintendent, because you did go through it quickly, and I think we'd like to nestle down with it and read it and relish a little bit on a lot of the accomplishments. Can we get that, do you suppose?
Yes, ma'am. And
Okay.
I want to thank, too, staff, because these could not have been possible without the hard work of a staff, so in every department. So I'd like for them to applaud themselves this evening for their good work.
Ms. Corey.
Madam Chair, Superintendent Jackson, I'm going to just go back to the last thing you said about passing this out. Do you think you could give copies of these to maybe some of our real estate agencies?
We're going to have a lot.
Right,
so
because we had a discussion, I kind of was at a meeting, and remember, Mark and I attended, and when I started telling her all the stuff, she said she wished she had that information for clients. But I want to go back and ask you a question regarding the bonus that you're considering. In doing this, is it possible for you to go back and look at your APs? Because one of the concerns that the APs have, you have some APs that have had their positions for 7 to 8 years, but you know, when we had these facilitators, the facilitators were paid like on a teacher salary, and then they got and they got a raise. You have some facilitators that have just become APs, and they're making more money than your APs that have been working for 7 to 8 years. There is a big disparity between those salaries. So if you all could kind of look at that, because I'm glad that you're doing this, because one of the, you know, and I'm glad this kind of answers, because I did send you an email about this and I didn't get a response. So I'm glad that you're talking about salaries, since over the spring break I kept hearing about other counties, and I got teachers calling and they're like, well, what are you all gonna do for us for a raise? And I said, you know, we hadn't really discussed it. But, you know, but if you would do that, because I mean, it will increase some salaries, but you're still going to have some APs that still are getting paid less, and they have more experience and more education than some of your facilitators based on the way that they were moved over. Let me say, I had one other thing I wanted to ask you. I really like the brochure because you're telling our story. One of the other things that people tell me that they miss, you remember Jerry Jackson used to do the little daily story about something going on and people are telling me that they do miss it. And I guess the other question I have, I thought you would talk about it, maybe Dr. Anderson discussed testing. We're starting testing tomorrow, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, since your article, your little snippet in this article was about those computers that we didn't know about. All right, I just need clarity on this. I've been told by someone else in another district that we actually do not have to use computers for our kids. Now, I know we said we bought those computers because I think you all said that a certain percentage needed to be tested on computers. And what I heard, and I don't know if it's true, is that the state was saying because our school districts could not comply, that we didn't need to test them on computers. Now, I noticed I got an email today that said you all don't want the staff using computers because once you get these kids in, you know, we're looking at our infrastructure. So if we don't have to use the computers, then why are we doing that this year? Or is that the case?
That's not the case. I've not gotten anything from the state that said you do not have to use your computers.
All right, well, I've talked to several people in other districts, and they're telling me they're not using computers.
Yes, ma'am. I can't tell you what other districts are doing as far as that or what they did. But now remember, somebody told you we could have a waiver too for...
Oh, well, you never checked into that, so
Yes, ma'am.
We won't.
Yes,
well,
ma'am, I did.
We're not going to debate that. It was based on the flexibility, so we're not. This will be a tit for tat. I'm not going tit for tat.
No, ma'am, I'm not going for that. But I'm just saying I can't say what other people are saying.
I'm asking you. So basically, what you're telling me is that
we are in compliance with what the state has told us.
That's what I asked. I asked whether or not we had gotten any information from the state that said that we did not have to use the computers.
No, ma'am.
Because one of my concerns about using the computers is, is our infrastructure large enough for all of these kids to log on at the same time? And then the other concern is that I believe our kids have been practicing on desktops, and we're going to move them from a desktop to a Chrome computer.
There is a percentage of students that we're obligated to test according to the state. And that's what we're working with the Chrome.
That's not my question. I'm saying that I was told that we practiced on desktop and we're going to move them to Chrome, to the book. And you have some people that are concerned, and actually that information about the computers, actually I've heard that from, a few staff members as well. But if you're saying that's the case, why wouldn't we just let the children test on whatever they practice with, because that bothers me that you're going to, it bothers me, number one, because we're getting ready to do this flexibility model, and we're going to be, I know we got to establish a baseline for these scores, and the fact that we just gave Derek Manning's student, they had the best scores, but yet that's one of those schools on the list, and then the governor is saying, has that name on the opportunity list. I just don't want for us to put our kids at a disadvantage, I guess is
And
what I'm
believe me,
asking.
Ms. Goree, that is our concern. We would not do that.
Okay, well, I'll close by saying to all the staff that's sitting out there, I don't know if we have any teachers in here or administrators, that I will take my hat off to you, because in light of testing, I did go to the courtroom today and see the people downtown. I would be very afraid if I were an administrator to have to administer the test. I just read some of the rules, and I would probably get in trouble. I'm hoping that if you have people that are volunteers and you have administrators that are walking past someone's classroom, and one of the things I read was if it's a number and you have to read it orally, if the number is 173, you can't say 173, you must say 173. If a math teacher forgets and says 173, I hope nobody reports them as having a non-standard testing site or whatever, and we have accusations. Just make sure you investigate before you start writing something. So I do take my hat off to the teachers, and I wish our students the very best on the test, and I expect that we'll do very well considering the rigor that we have in our district.
And we have done everything. We are also praying very hard, but we have a very capable department spearheaded by Dr. Young, and we have gone through and made sure that we have read all of those rules and regs that are outlined with our administrators and with our testing coordinators and with our site facilitators and all the people that need to be, as well as the teachers. And so we've done, and we're waiting for tomorrow. So thank you, ma'am. Thank board members for supporting us.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Board members, will go to the consent agenda. The consent agenda contains the purchasing report, financial report, SPLOST revenue report, financial audit, and SPLOST performance audit for fiscal year 2014, personnel changes report, the SPLOST construction update, the resolution for Forest Park High School, SPLOST 5 facilities priority list, the FY 2014-15 capital projects amended budget, the textbook adoption for English language arts, and the mathematics curriculum. That's a lot. So the floor is open for your pleasure, and I have lights, so Ms. Goree.
Well, I made this request to you last meeting. I wanted to know if we could take the facilities priority listing off of the consent agenda and actually reconsider it, because I think that we need to really look at what our priorities are before we vote on this.
Okay, Ms. Goree, as is our practice, we'll pull it out to be dealt with separately this evening, and then when we do that, you can make that motion, okay? All right.
And I'm requesting that, but I will move that we accept the consent agenda with the exception of the
SPLOST 5,
priorities listing.
that's the H item, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right, I need a second to that. Ms. Baker, can I get a second to that?
Second.
Board members, you're voting on the consent agenda without the line H, the SPLOST 5 facilities priority listing, if you would vote now at this time. I didn't clear it, yeah. So it is unanimous to approve the consent agenda. And let me clear the board, and now we'll go back, and Ms. Goree will entertain a motion from you regarding that SPLOST 5.
I'm moving that we postpone, wait a minute, let me make sure, do I have the right word, Clem? That we postpone voting on the facilities priority listing until further review.
I think a postponement requires a projected date, Ms. Goree, so
Well-
would you like to say the next work session, or?
Well, I actually can't give a date because we don't, I mean, we had a discussion about some of the things that were listed, and we didn't feel like what we said was that it was listed in the priority in which the board wanted. So if you're saying, let me ask you this question, Madam Chair. So if you're saying waiting until the next work session, then would we be looking at discussing changing the priority, or are you just saying
I'm
to
trying to
vote?
get our legal counsel's attention so that he can tell me whether or not I'm correct, that a motion to postpone should have some target date for consideration.
I believe if we didn't have notice that we were going to have this motion to postpone, so if it is a motion to postpone indefinitely, it will need a 2/3 majority. If there is a certain time to which you're postponing this, just giving it a time, then it'll just need a majority.
Can we do it something simple like by the end of June?
Yes.
Ms. Gorey, would that work?
Yeah, that will work.
Okay, so your motion is to postpone consideration of SPLOST 5 facilities priority listing no later than June 30th,
Yes.
2015.
Right.
Will that work?
And I'm hoping, and okay, that's my motion, but can I justify why?
But that's going to give us.
Let me get a second, okay? Can I have a second to that motion?
Some projects, perhaps.
I need a second to the motion. Mr. Christmas.
I second.
Okay, now, Ms. Gorey, I'll come back to you, and then Ms. Baker, you'll be next, but she gets priority because it was her motion. Go ahead.
The only reason I'm saying this, I'm just hoping, that we had a kind of a lively discussion about the things that were listed on that list weren't exactly what we thought that we were going to, that would be the order in which it was the priority. So I think, and then the other thing that I had asked Mr. Holloway, one of my concerns was about the cameras. Remember, I asked you if you could get Chief Cox to look at the cameras in the schools. I think that we need to look at some safety things prior to maybe doing some construction. And also, I'm trying to think of what else I asked Mr. Holloway about. I think I did kind of ask both of you all to do that. And I thought maybe Mr. Holloway was going to.
But I hear what you're saying, Ms. Gorey, but in directing staff, what we were talking about is I have to look at who's responsible for doing what, and it is just not Chief Cox and Mr. Holloway, so we've got a lot of other departments involved in that as well, but we are looking at that, we are doing that, and the expenses involved in some of that.
Mm-hmm.
So they were already involved in looking at that. They had already made an assessment about where cameras are, all of those kinds of things. So they, not just with the security, but when we're renovating
Right.
and building,
Mhm.
and then when you're looking at those different kinds of expenses, sometimes it's also connected with our technology and all of those kinds of things. So we're looking at it comprehensively, whereas we
Right.
might not have done that
Mhm.
previously as much as we wanted to. And in looking at that, we're finding some other things that we need to look at as well.
Well, that's really what I'm saying, just for him to make sure that the things that are listed are actually the priority.
Let's be sure that we're keeping our discussion, the motion on the floor is a postponement, so the virtues of the postponement is what we should be
Yeah,
discussing.
well,
Okay.
that's just what I'm talking about now, not.
You were laying your foundation, I understand. Okay, now we're going to Ms. Baker. She had her light on earlier.
My question is timing. I didn't know if we needed to turn this into the state or anything. I don't recall. So my question is the timing of this, how any delay would change that, and also
Mr. Holloway.
also the getting busy with architects.
It does impact.
Because I know some of those that are on the first of the list have been waiting a long time, and it takes a while for the architects to get going and then the whole process. So that's my concern.
Mr. Holloway, did you?
It does impact our what we're to do with our timelines. And some of those that with design and all of those, it takes a while. But Mr. Holloway, can you?
With outboard approval of a priority list, I can't commit to design. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. The quicker we can come together and agree, the quicker the renovation construction program can move
And
forward.
it's my understanding as well, Mr. Holloway, that when we give that priority, there is some flexibility there.
That was always the understanding. The priority list is presented and can be changed at any, even though it's listed for 5 years, the priority can be changed at any time via a board vote.
I'm going to call for a vote at this time. Board members, is that
Madam
good?
Chair, we don't have to wait until, we're putting it, June doesn't have to be the time. I just wanted us to, I can say May or whatever.
That's why I said no later than June to give a little.
Well, okay, but I'm just saying, all of a sudden, I'm hearing that all of this will have an impact, but because you're saying that we can't do any design, but we also can't do any design because remember, we don't have any money to do any design. The only thing that we're trying to design, I thought, was trying to do it Elite Scholars. We don't have any money to pay anybody to do a design anyway right now.
Remember, we started collecting funds in
I know.
January.
Well, but we just reported money the last meeting, so, and he just said that would impact the Elite Scholars. But anyway,
Okay, board members, the motion on the floor is to postpone consideration of SPLOST 4 facilities priority listing at a
Thank
date
you.
no later than June 30th of 2015. So if you're in favor of that motion, please vote green, and if you're in opposition, please vote red. And the motion fails for a lack of majority. So we're back to approving that item this evening. So I need a motion regarding the H entry on the consent agenda. Let me clear my board here a minute, girls. Okay, we're clear. I need a motion regarding the SPLOST 5 facilities priority listing. Dr. Anderson.
Madam Chair, I make the motion that we accept the superintendent's recommendation for the SPLOST 5 facilities priority
Ms. Baker.
listing.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Board members, if you would vote your pleasure regarding that. And the motion carries with 5 in favor and 3 in opposition. Thank you so much. We'll go down to the business agenda at this time, and we'll take a look at those GSBA legislative positions. We have to file those later this week, so we must consider them this evening. We have had those out for a good period of time, I think about 6 weeks now or so. So I need a motion regarding the GSBA legislative positions. Dr. Anderson.
Madam Chair, I make the motion that we accept the GSBA legislative positions.
I need a second to that motion. Ms. Burrows.
I second the motion.
And board members, if you would vote your pleasure regarding the GSBA legislative positions. And it is unanimous. Thank you. Next is the Policy Series I instructional program. We had the second read at our last meeting, so I need a motion regarding the changes to the Policy Series I. Dr. Anderson.
I make the motion that we accept the policy series I instructional programs.
Need a second to that motion, please. Ms. Baker.
Second.
And board members, if you would vote your pleasure. And the motion passes with 6 votes in favor. And wait a minute, Ms. Gore, you got to choose one or the other. Which one do you want, Ms. Gore? It's a yes, okay. So it's 7 votes in favor and 1 in opposition. Thank you, Ms. Gorey. And let me clear my board. We have been considering the flexibility options now for years, and the superintendent's recommendation is that we pledge ourselves to the IE squared, the Investing in Educational Excellence governance model. I need a motion regarding the superintendent's recommendation. Ms. Baker.
I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation for the IE squared.
Ms. Johnson.
I second that.
Board members, if you would vote your pleasure. Oops. And the motion passes with 5 votes in favor and 3 in opposition. Can you give me just a second?
I know they just voted on. What are you talking about? I haven't voted on this. No. What are you looking for? She said that this was supposed to be on the agenda and it's not. It was.
We're in a tad of a predicament. Let me explain to you what's going on over here. On the agenda, we're ready for the recommendations from executive session, and yet we need to approve the advanced ed SACs things that we have talked about for 6 weeks or so. And it was on the agenda earlier, but there's been a snafu on the thing, and I'm not sure about the one that has been posted outside, but it was on the one that you approved at our last meeting. And we have a deadline of this thing moving forward. Mr. Doyle, can you tell me how to handle that? I was going up through there ready to deal with it, and it wasn't there.
One of the things that the board could consider is...
I can't hear you, Mr. Doyle.
One of the things the board could consider is voting to approve it and ratifying it later to get around the fact that we haven't given notice, but that way we can have board approval for this. So that's one way you could address this matter since it's not on the agenda.
So I can say legally, board members, if you have no objections, we're going to use this as our foundation with the understanding that we'll bring it back at the end of April. I'm sorry. It has to be in by May the 1st, so we've got to do this. And this is the same thing you saw at the retreat, with the exception that Ms. Gorey made a suggestion, a good suggestion, and we changed it. And then at our last meeting, she again made a really good suggestion. That's down under Objective 2, and it's the last strategy. But other than that, it's the exact same document that you've been seeing all these times. So since it's not on our agenda and we're not sure what was posted.
And another option you have is, if you have time, you simply consider it at the work session.
Yeah, we'll have to. We simply will have to, because we just don't have.
What's the date of the work session? What's the date of the work session? April.
Is that okay with everybody? It's just a typo, evidently. So we'll do that. We'll come back in April. You can approve the action, but know and keep this before you that this is the same document that we've been refining now for about 6 weeks or so. Okay. So that having been said, thank you, Mr. Doyle. We're ready for our recommendations from executive session. We have an employee tribunal, it's 2014-15-03, and I need a motion regarding the recommendation from the tribunal panel. Ms. Baker?
I move that we accept the recommendation from the tribunal panel.
I need a second to that motion. Dr. Anderson?
I second the motion.
And board members, if you would vote your pleasure. The motion passes with 5 in favor and 3 in opposition. And we'll finish our evening with a personnel recommendation from executive session.
Thank you. We have the position coming before you, Coordinator of Technology, Ms. Mary Barclay.
Need a motion regarding the superintendent's recommendation. Ms. Baker?
I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation for Ms. Mary Barkley for the Coordinator of Technology.
And Ms. Burrows?
I second the motion.
Board members, if you would vote your pleasure. We have 5 votes in favor, 2 in opposition. And Ms. Corey, are you abstaining? Yes. Okay.
No.
And would you like to speak to that?
No, I just,
Just abstaining, okay, all right, thank you so much. And so the person is appointed?
Thank you. She's not here this evening,
Okay.
but thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Board members, having completed our agenda and finished all of our business, this meeting is adjourned.